If you've heard about China's social credit system, you're probably thinking of some terrifying Black Mirror episode, right? A single score for every single citizen, a number that controls every part of their lives. But what if I told you that the system you've heard about, well, it doesn't really exist? All right, first things first, we have got to tackle the biggest misconception head on. This whole idea of a single, universal citizen score that follows you around. Let's just be crystal clear on this one. That slick, gamified score that you see in the news all the time, it's a product from a private company. It is not the government's tool for judging whether you're a good person. Somehow, these two completely different things got all tangled up in the story we've been told. So look at it this way. On one side, you have Sesame Credit. It's a totally voluntary rewards program from the tech giant Alibaba. Seriously, think of it like your airline miles or a coffee shop loyalty card. You use their stuff, you get perks. On the other side, you have the actual government systems, and those are much more like a set of databases for enforcing laws and regulations, especially for businesses. And the most important part, they don't talk to each other. And get this, China's own central bank actually denied Sesame Credit a formal credit license. And their reasoning was pretty straightforward. It was a huge conflict of interest. See, a real credit score is supposed to measure how likely you are to pay back a loan. But Sesame Credit, it was just measuring your loyalty to a brand. And that's a world of difference. Okay, so if the citizen score is a myth, where did all those stories about people being banned from buying plane tickets come from? Well, there is a grain of truth there, but the way it works is completely different. It has nothing to do with the score, it's all about a blacklist. This is it. This is the key. The Shexin list. It's a legal tool run by the highest court in the country. Now, you don't land on this list for jaywalking or playing too many video games. You get on it for one main reason. You lost a court case and are straight up refusing to comply with the ruling, which usually means not paying a debt you legally owe. And this is not some small, obscure list. We're talking huge numbers. By 2019, people had been added to this list more than 14.5 million times. It just goes to show you the massive scale of what is basically an automated system for making sure people follow court orders. And once you're on the list, boom, the consequences just kick in automatically. The restrictions are all about targeting luxuries. You can't fly, you can't take the fast train. The government's logic is basically, hey, if you can afford that stuff, you can definitely afford to pay your court-ordered debts. So the bottom line is this. The blacklist system was never about creating some kind of morality square. It was built to solve a very specific and very frustrating legal problem in China where people would just ignore court rulings and get away with it. This isn't social engineering, it's automated law enforcement. Okay, so if individual people aren't getting a single all-encompassing score, then who is? Well, it turns out the real target of comprehensive rating and scoring under this whole social credit umbrella is companies. This is the Corporate Social Credit System, or CSCS. Now, this is the real deal. It's a massive regulatory data project that pulls in information on every single company in China. We're talking everything from tax payments and environmental records to product safety, and it uses all that to generate a constantly updated rating. And this is where it gets really complicated for businesses, because it creates this wild domino effect. It's not just about your company's behavior, it's about the behavior of your entire supply chain. So picture this. One of your suppliers gets caught for an environmental violation. Bam, that gets logged in the database. And then because you're connected to them, your company's score can get automatically downgraded, which could trigger things like extra audits or being cut off from government deals. As Jörg Wutke from the EU Chamber of Commerce put it, the stakes are just incredibly high. For any business working in China, this isn't some abstract idea. Figuring out this web of compliance isn't just a good idea, it's about survival. But hold on, what about those jaywalking stories? They had to come from somewhere, right? They didn't just appear out of thin air. And they didn't. They came from a series of local experiments. You see, in the early days, some cities did try out these local point systems for minor stuff like jaywalking. But here's the thing. They were mostly a flop. They were too controversial, too hard to manage, and in the end, the national government actually stepped in and reined in these local governments, stopping these experiments from going nationwide. So now that we've kind of torn down the myth, let's build up a more accurate picture of what's really happening. It's not one system, it's many. Honestly, the best way to think about it is not as a single giant pyramid, but more like 3 separate circles, like a Venn diagram where the circles barely even touch each other. Each one has its own job, its own rules, its own world. And here they are, the three big circles. First, you've got the private commercial loyalty programs like Sesame Credit, totally voluntary. Second, you have the government's legal blacklists, the heavy hammer for enforcing court orders. And third, you have the really complex corporate rating system that regulates the market. They all exist under the social credit name, but they are playing completely different games. So when you strip away all the hype, the reality of China's social credit system isn't some flashy dystopian nightmare. It's actually something kind of boring. It's a bunch of databases designed for automated, large-scale law enforcement. But don't let boring fool you. That's what makes it so powerful. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. We've busted the myth of the all-seeing citizen score, but is the reality a super efficient, data-driven machine for automated legal and corporate enforcement? Is that really any less concerning? Or is it just a more effective way to govern in the 21st century?